Okay, let's begin with some breaking news coming in from the world of sports. Now, the AITA, the All India Tennis Association, has confirmed there are no wild cards this year for the Rio Olympics. Now, that renders the whole Mahesh pairing a non-starter. The two would have wanted to come together in hopes of getting a wild card. And there was speculation that Mahesh Bhupathi and Leander Paes, who of course had a bitter fallout some time back, that they have of course made up, and they are looking at the possibility of playing at the Rio Olympics together. But that doesn't seem to be the possibility anymore. Shivani Gupta, my colleague, joins us now. Shivani, you know, this clearly looked, there was only a minimal possibility of this happening, and now it's officially clear that this can't possibly be.
That's right. The two players, obviously, given the fact that they are very below in the rankings and given the fact that they weren't sure if Rohan Bopanna, who's the highest ranked Indian male player in the doubles section, would have actually picked either of them if he was to stay in the top 10. They were trying to open channels and try to see a scenario where they can come together and hopefully get a wild card. Of course, they are very renowned players in the doubles section. They've won scores of Grand Slams between them. But the All India Tennis Association and its president Anil Khanna has confirmed to India today that there are indeed no wild cards at all in the tennis category in this year's Olympics at Rio, which means that even if these two were to come together, they cannot get a wild card entry, which seems to be their only hope, because Leander is number 59 in the world right now. Mahesh has barely played on the circuit for the last 2 years and is in the early 200s. In the next 2 months, which is the cutoff period after the French Open, they will not be able to raise their rankings to such an extent that one of them becomes the top 10 players and can pick a partner. So this brings us back to status quo, where we'll have to wait and see whether Rohan Bopanna stays in the top 10 of the world rankings and has a pick of his choice, or otherwise, if Rohan and Leander together can make the cutoff, which also seems very, very difficult, because as it stands right now, their combined ranking would be 70, when the cutoff could be as high as 32.
You know, Shivani, perhaps this is the fantasy of sports lovers to see, of course, the legendary players together, you know, their favorite players together. But for a second, if one were to imagine that the two would have had a chance to play together, what would you say in terms of the tuning together? Because both these ace players are past their prime age in terms of the sporting age, really. So what about their tuning together if they did have an opportunity to come together?
That's right. See, the reason they would have even looked at each other is because perhaps they're getting the indication that Rohan, who could get a qualification, is not even keen to play with either of them. Over the last few months, Leander has had a lot to deal with on the personal front, and his performances on the court have declined. He's currently lost the first round in the Challenger in Taipei. Mahesh, as I mentioned earlier, initially was almost set to retire, but then is continuing, playing very few events, playing Challenger as well. So clearly they're not where they used to be. They're far from the prime of their forms. And the only way, the outside chance for a Mahesh Bhupathi especially was to get a wild card. Leander perhaps can still play the Olympics if Rohan gets a chance to pick his partner and picks Leander, or together they're the only two players who can combine for the Olympics. Rankings play a huge part in this, Smita.
Right.
And rankings is not on the side of Leander and Mahesh. Form is not on their side. But the most important thing now is that even if they were to come together, it's a non-starter, because even if they do, even if they decide to play on the tour together, it will not get them an entry into the Olympics. That was the main motivation behind coming together.
Okay, many thanks for explaining all of that to our viewers and putting that in perspective. Shivani Gupta joining us from the newsroom.
Union Minister Nitin Gadkari has constituted a committee under the Transport Minister of Rajasthan, Yunus Khan, and all state transport ministers to submit a report on a bill to make fair